Well, we just saw the 4 Proud Boys get convicted for what I personally think is a far-reaching charge of seditious conspiracy. My unprofessional opinion, obviously, I could maybe see criminal charges and destruction of property. I think they probably were over-prosecuted. But then again, I'm not a lawyer, I don't even have an undergrad. This obviously comes after so many were held without trial for more than a year, some of whom were grossly mistreated in custody. I'm very comfortable making the assertion that all this is because they were on the wrong side of the political aisle. And I can prove it, because when the shoe is on the other foot, it's a very different story, both in prosecution and media coverage. Jamie Raskin came out yesterday and said this.
The scary thing to me is that the insurrectionist philosophy behind this extraordinary event has only spread within the Republican Party and is now a defining attribute of their understanding of the Second Amendment.
From the guy who can't seem to read the part that says, shall not be infringed. He's awfully silent when the rioters set fire to a courthouse in Oregon, and during the whole 2-year saga of the BLM riots, the media gave cover to anyone who would break stuff, vandalize things, light stuff on fire, anything was labeled mostly peaceful.
What you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night. A second night since Jacob Blake was seen shot in the back 7 times by a police officer. And what you are seeing now, these images came and come in stark contrast to what we saw over the course of the daytime hours in Kenosha and into the early evening, which were largely peaceful demonstrations.
My man is wearing a gas mask, a helmet, and goggles, presumably to protect him from the riots and pepper spray. Mostly peaceful, though. Kamala Harris even raised money to bail these rioters out, as well as a swath of other criminals, though, through the Freedom Minnesota Fund, or Minnesota Freedom Fund. Here's her own tweet from June 1st, 2020, 2 months before she was tapped as Biden's running mate. It says right here, if you're able to, chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. So real quick, the current vice president helped raise $35 million for a group that bailed out rioters. But that's not all they did with that money. According to a local Fox 9, a Minnesota nonprofit bailed out defendants from Twin Cities jails charged with murder, violent felonies, and sex crimes. Same group, but Grandma who was ushered into the Capitol by the police, or the MAGA shaman who was escorted into the chambers and led prayers thanking the officers. They're the domestic terrorists and insurrectionists. Again, for the liberal media, and media doesn't matter, and those folks watching in their mom's basement right now, no one is actually condoning the actual crimes committed on January 6th. But those crimes are far fewer than the media wants you to believe. You cannot deny the government way over-prosecuted people, many of which did nothing knowingly wrong by entering the Capitol. But in Tennessee, you want to hold up the House business, stop the rule of law in the name of violating the Second Amendment. You are A-OK for a trip to the White House. You want to call for violence against Trump supporters? Go for it.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
When radical environmentalists stormed the Department of Interior because they didn't like their policy on something, they're totally fine. You want to set up camp and protest a pipeline so something can't lawfully be built, leaving 800 plus dumpsters of trash? Sure, go ahead. Or hey, if you want to threaten a Supreme Court justice at his home with vulgar protests and an attempt to change the course of a decision, go ahead, be my guest. That's totally fine. By the way, that's the actual definition, the literal definition of insurrection. Quote, an act or instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. Weird. But when the left does it, the talking heads rush to protect their level of outrage. They do this all the time from some mythical moral high ground, even victimizing the criminal, like this subway incident, where a Marine veteran put a career criminal with a warrant out for his arrest in a chokehold for threatening and harassing people. The assailant unfortunately died, and now the Good Samaritan is guilty in the eyes of the left. This led to protests in favor of the guy who had been arrested more than 40 times, demonizing the hero who stopped him from committing more crimes on the train. Look at what they're doing with Trump. The FBI, which is the one organization that is supposed to ensure this doesn't happen, allegedly buried information on the current president being bribed to influence foreign policy. We live in a clown world.